Hey guys, welcome back to Tipharot. First of all, I want to apologise for the massive gap that you guys have possibly noticed or possibly not noticed between my recent videos. I was feeling a bit burnt out from the channel, so I took a bit of a break, took a bit of a step back, but I am back. And today I wanted to come back with a bit of a Q&A video, because the other thing that happens when I'm away from the channel for quite a while is I end up missing even more of your questions than I usually do. And I already have trouble going through all the comments and answering people's questions because often there's just so many of them across all of my old videos. So today I'm going to go through and I'm going to answer a bunch of your questions. So without further ado, let's get on to question number 1. How can I get dream recalls consistently? Because sometimes I remember a lot and sometimes not that much. Is there any bad habit that I might be doing? Well, your bad habit might be not dream journaling every morning. If you want good dream recall, you need to be writing in your dream journal. And now what I suggest you do for this is that you write in it every single morning, regardless of how many dreams that you remember. And there's this concept, which I've now been informed actually has a name these days, dream delving, which is where when you first wake up, what you do is you basically go back through the memories that you have of the thoughts that you were having as you were waking up, any little fragments that are there, any little weird thoughts, any little images that come to mind, as well as what you can remember from before that, even if it's stuff that you remember from before falling asleep the night before. As you're going through those thoughts, you might actually be able to find some little thread there that leads you into recalling one of the dreams that you had, at which point you can end up writing that down. But even if you don't, even if all you do is you go through these thoughts and perhaps you write some of these thoughts down in your dream journal, make a habit of going through this process every morning, writing down what you can remember. And if you're consistent with this every day, day in and day out, then you should end up with some consistent dream recall. There are some exceptions to this. For example, certain medications and certain other things can actually interfere with your REM cycles. So you might actually find yourself having less dreams or less dream recall and so on, and so you might get inconsistent results. But provided that you're not on any medications that you know interfere with sleep and dreaming, then you should be able to rely on a dream journal as your simple tool for getting consistent dream recall. Question number 2. When you do another Q&A, do you think that you could discuss how to dance or make rapid movements in a dream without waking up? I'm a pretty bad dancer in real life, so I thought it would be a good idea to experiment in my dreams with the added benefit of me not having to worry about embarrassing myself. That's a great idea, honestly. Yeah, a dream really is a great place to practice things that you might feel a bit embarrassed about practicing in real life, and especially things that involve movement. You know, if you're a little bit too embarrassed to start working out because you're really out of shape and you don't even know how to do a single push-up or a single pull-up, you can actually practice some of these things in a dream first. I've mentioned this before, but I actually helped myself learn how to perform a proper pull-up by practicing it in my dreams when I was only able to do negatives in waking life. Now, if you're finding that your dreams are generally unstable to the point that, any sort of rapid movement wakes you up, that's something that you want to work on. You want to work on getting more stability in your dreams. I've made some various videos on that, which I think you should check out. But when you are in a dream that does feel stable, everything is nice and vivid and clear, and it doesn't feel like things are fading out or getting blurry or whatever, don't be afraid to make those rapid movements then. When you're in a dream that's not quite yet stable because you entered into a really murky dream and suddenly became lucid in the middle of it and you need to do some work to stabilize it, or perhaps you were in a dream and it was quite stable and then something happened and you lost some stability. Whenever you're in a situation like that, then making some quick jerky movements, dashing from activity to activity is a very good way to cause the dream to end early. But if you're not in that situation, if you're in a dream that's already stable, then you can dance, run, sing, whatever. You can jump up in the air, you can fly, and you should be able to do those things without destabilizing the dream. So when you are there and it's stable, don't be afraid, just get dancing. Question number 3. What kind of meditations would you recommend? Now, this was being asked on one of my lucid dreaming videos, I believe. So I believe this is about lucid dreaming, but to be honest, my answer is the same whether you're interested in lucid dreaming or whether you're just interested in the general life improvement benefits of meditation. I think you should do mindfulness meditation, mindfulness of the breath. That's what I encourage people to do, which is where you essentially sit down, you pay attention to your breath, you watch it come and go, usually at one point of your body. I use the tip of my nose, and you sit and you watch that, and any time that you find your attention drifts too far elsewhere, you simply bring it back to that point. You do this every day and you try to repeat it for, say, 20 minutes. which you can slowly build up to over time. And if you do that, and especially if you do it at night, you're going to find that you get lucid dreaming benefits. And if you do that each day, regardless of the time that you do it, you're going to find some lovely benefits for the rest of your life. Once again, just like with stabilizing dreams, I've got plenty of videos about meditation on my channel. In fact, I have a whole series where I go really in depth into it, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. Okay, this next question is a bit of a break from the usual questions that I answer on this channel, but I figured since it's been a while, I'd do a bit of a longer Q&A today, and so I thought, hey, why not throw a little personal question in there? Matt, what type of music do you like or listen to? This is actually a really hard question to answer, believe it or not, though, because I listen to so many types of music and it really depends on what my mood is, what I'm doing. And I also go long periods where I don't listen to much music, and then periods where I will just like listen for hours and hours on end. So my most listened to genres are probably like EDM, basically anything electronic like house music, EDM, like big room, stuff like that. Basically this sort of stuff you'd hear in a club. And hip hop, which can range from like 90s classic hip hop to more modern stuff, to other like offshoots and sub-genres like grime and so on. But for example, if you ask me who my favourite bands or artists are, a lot of them really do not fall into either of those genres. So there's bands like Tool or Dire Straits that are definitely not EDM and definitely not hip hop, and yet they're a couple of my favourite bands of all time. I like me a bit of old like classic rock like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and the Beatles and stuff from that era. Love me a bit of jazz, especially if I'm listening on like a really nice sound system. But it's honestly harder for me to come up with music that I don't like, because there are like songs that I don't like. There's plenty of songs that I'll put them on and I'll just think that's not very good. But when it comes to genres, there's very few genres where I've like never heard a song that even remotely interested me. Sometimes I'll like put on the most obscure or weird thing that normally would not be my thing, and I'll just find one song in that genre that actually happens to be really dope. Not sure if that actually answers your question or just leaves you with more confusion on the subject, but anyway, on to the next question. Going to ask, how do you do a reality check when you can't control your dream? So this is going to be a little bit hard to wrap your head around, but what you're going to find is as you start doing reality checks throughout the day, as long as you take them seriously and acknowledge the fact that every time you do a reality check, you could be dreaming right now. You literally could be in a dream right now as you're listening to this and not know it until you've done a reality check to confirm. As long as you take that approach and that attitude, then what you're going to find is eventually you are going to do one in a dream, and you're going to have been in control when you perform that reality check. You were just sort of going through the motions like on autopilot, the same way you might do if you're walking, driving or cycling the same route to work every day or whatever. So sometimes what you're going to find, especially with dream-induced lucid dreams, is it's not like there's this sudden moment where suddenly now you have control. It's like you actually did have a little fragment of control and you use that to figure out that you're dreaming, and now it's the awareness, it's the fact that, oh, wait, I'm in a dream, I need to sort of get off autopilot here and I can do my own thing. I don't need to go along with whatever silly plot is going on in my dream. I can if I want to, if it's interesting, but I can do whatever I want right now. I'm in a dream and I am now lucid, so let's have some fun. Next question, what do you mean by visualizing yourself becoming aware in your next dream? So when I say to visualize something, I literally mean imagine it, picture it. When you close your eyes, picture yourself in a dream, going through the sort of things that you do in a dream. You can use an actual dream that you've had as a reference for this, or you can just imagine yourself in a typical generic dream like the ones that you normally have, and imagine yourself going through the motions, doing the normal things that you would do in that dream, but then, stopping to do a reality check or suddenly noticing that something is off, and imagine yourself having that realization, that sudden acknowledgement that something is off here, checking that it's a dream, discovering that it's a dream, and suddenly being aware that, hey, I'm in a dream right now, I'm lucid. That's what I mean when I say visualize yourself becoming aware in your next dream. Okay, this next one is a little bit less of a question, more of just an interesting comment that I wanted to respond to. So Blue is the Colour commented on one of my videos about AI art and said, what's very interesting for me is that AI can't create a realistic hands depiction, same as our minds when we're dreaming. And that was exactly one of the things that made me draw a parallel between dreaming and between AI image generation. because you generate these AI images and you do notice a lot of similarity to certain things about the way that our dreams work. For example, when you try to generate a really complex scene, often a lot of the things just look very unreal and the detail is not there and things are in the wrong place and faces look strange, and that's often true in dreams as well. If you're in a dream and you're in a very busy scene with lots of people all around you, often you'll find that the faces aren't quite as well defined and as accurate to the people that are there as they would be if you were sitting one-on-one with someone. Now, I can't speak for everyone. I don't know if there's some variation between people's dreams, but in my dreams at least, faces are generally a lot more clear than how AI does them at the minute when there's lots in a scene. I can still see some pretty clear faces, even if there's, like 20 people around me. It's just that the more there is, the more detail that my brain has to figure out, the less of that detail that's going to be accurate. And that's something that I observed with these AI algorithms as well. And yes, hands is the classic one. If you want to figure out if a picture has been made by a person or made by an AI and there happens to be a person in it, the first place you should be looking is their hands, because you're going to notice some weird things. You're going to notice this thing that looks like this amazing piece of digital art that someone's painstakingly put together, and then you look at that hand and somehow there's about 9 fingers and some of them don't even look like they're in places where fingers are supposed to go, and they're all sort of merging together like some weird sort of jellyfish. Well, if you see that, it's probably been generated by AI, because yes, AI has seen so many different hands in so many different positions that it seems to have a hard time recreating them. Now, there are actually ways to get around this when you're generating AI images. I've been playing around with Stable Diffusion for a little while now, and I found, for example, that if you train yourself a dream booth model of yourself or of a particular person and you have some hands in those images, then when you actually generate that specific person, you actually do get pretty good looking hands, because it seems to take the hands of that person as being separate from its general concept of hands, and so it doesn't seem to get as confused. But on the whole, it seems something very similar is going on here to what's going on with our subconscious minds, our ability to visualize and our ability to dream. When we've seen so much of something and when it's kind of complicated, we have a hard time drawing hands as well as humans. It's one of the hardest things to learn. When it's something as complicated as that, sometimes our brains can mess it up a little bit, which is why looking at your hands can be a great way to get some signs that you might be dreaming. Next question. How do I control my dream character? No matter what I do or see, my character won't think about dreaming, even with reality checks and a dream journal. It's frustrating. Well, the first thing I'd ask is, how long have you been doing this? Because if you just got started doing this and you're having this, that's perfectly normal. Some people are going to get really rapid results. Other people are going to need a bit more time of doing these things. But I will say, if that's all that you're doing, if you're doing reality checks and a dream journal, unless your schedule in some way prevents you from using techniques that might involve you waking up in REM, I would recommend picking up some other techniques like mild and so on. And by the way, for mild, I would recommend actually going over to Daniel Love's channel and checking out his guide on that, as my guide on mild is still a very outdated guide that actually doesn't really teach mild, but sort of a separate mantra technique, which is something that I need to go back and correct at some point. There's other techniques that are great for beginners, like Wake Back to Bed, and I also actually think that DEILD, when it's done in the way that I prescribe, where you don't actually have to have just woken up from the dream to do it, then I actually think it can be a solid one to experiment with as a beginner. Check out my DEILD video if you want to learn more about the way that I do that. Next question. Why not sell flickering lamps/lights or such to create reality checkpoints in real life for lucid dreaming training purposes? So this was on the video where I was talking about how my light was actually giving me issues in real life, and how this led to me not realizing that a light giving me issues in a dream was a sign that I was dreaming, because I was just so used to my actual light in waking life doing the same thing. So this is a suggestion here. Why not actually have, a lamp that every so often goes a bit on the fritz and on the jitter, so when you see it doing that, you actually remember, hey, I should do a reality check, and you sort of train yourself to look for these sorts of signs in a dream. I think that's actually a brilliant idea. Now, unless it was fairly cheap, I'm not sure how much demand there would be for this, so I'm not sure if it would be worth it to any company to make this, and I don't have the knowledge or the know-how to make this, but if there is anyone watching this that happens to know how to make lights and happens to know how to make something like that, or happens to know how to maybe make a program that would perhaps do this with your smart lights from time to time, then hey, maybe this guy's got a point, and maybe you should try and figure out some kind of thing that we could use to help us learn to notice weird things going on with lights or weird things going on with technology to aid us in our dreams. You know, maybe there could be a app for your computer or your phone that would suddenly jumble up the numbers on the clock or make the text in apps suddenly look weird so that you'd end up performing a reality check. I'd love to see something like that, to be honest. Now, if it was doing it too often, it could perhaps backfire because you could start getting in the habit of thinking, oh, it's just the app again doing that. But I think that, you know, if you went in with the right mindset, having an app like that would be extremely useful and would help keep you in the habit of doing reality checks and taking them seriously each time. So yeah, app developers, lamp developers, get on it. It's 7:40 a.m. right now. Should I go to bed or go for a walk? Well, given that you posted this 2 months ago, I really think it's probably about time to go to bed if you haven't already. But I believe this was posted under a video about what to do if you're having trouble falling asleep. And so what I generally advise is, of course, you know, give it a go. Try and get in bed and go to sleep and do something relaxing first. I like to put on, you know, a relaxing guided meditation or some ASMR or something like that to help me unwind. But if you don't manage to unwind and fall asleep after a set amount of time, then it actually can be better to get up and do something. Now, I probably wouldn't suggest going for a walk because going out in the cool morning air is probably going to wake you up more than anything. But perhaps just go walk around the house, sit on the couch for a bit, maybe see if you can fall asleep there in front of the TV. Basically, do something a little bit different so that you don't associate your bed with just prolonged periods of insomnia and not falling asleep, and then go back and try to sleep again in a little bit. Now, this next comment, I believe, was on some video of mine about dream incubation, and Nathan asks, is this similar to Coors Light and Coors Seltzer releasing an advertising campaign last week that uses targeted dream incubation to try and play commercial images while the viewer sleeps? I read this comment, and I believe I was done with my comments that I wanted to use in this video, and I was just like, what? I just had to pause and do a double take when I read this and go off and immediately Google it, and apparently this is a real thing. So apparently this Coors brand, which I believe are an American beer brand, I am not familiar with them, have not had them, have not actually seen them over here, I don't think, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyway, so they did a whole thing where they made some sort of like 8-hour guided meditation to listen to in your sleep to make you dream about Coors. And if that isn't a little bit unsettling, then I don't know what is. That does seem a little bit weird to me. On the other hand, though, it is entirely voluntary. So I would rather that in a weird way than, you know, being bombarded by ads all over the internet, all over TV and so on. I would much rather that advertising was something voluntary like that, like, hey, we've made this cool guided meditation that you can listen to and it's going to make you dream about our products, but those dreams are going to be really fun. I might actually once in a while try something like that if there was something like that available, and if companies weren't already bombarding me with so many ads that I was sick of anything to do with their products to begin with. As it stands, though, in the current ad climate, I think that's a little bit weird and probably not something that I would recommend anyone go and listen to. But to answer the question, yes, this is a type of dream incubation that they're using to do that. Anyway, I think that's been enough questions for today. This has been quite a long video, but I did want to make something a little bit longer given that I've been away for quite a while. Now, one other side effect of having been away for so long is that I forgot about the Christmas discount that I left on all of my products. So I left that up there for a while, and I see some of you have noticed that and been taking advantage of that still up till as recently as a few days ago. As basically I did a Christmas sale where, you know, it was 50% off everything, but I forgot to take that code down. As I've been away for a while, I'm just actually going to leave that code up for another week. So it's a bit weird having a code called Xmas when it's now the end of January, about to be February. In fact, it's already February when you're seeing this video. But hey, if you use the code Xmas at checkout on any of my products on my Gumroad page, you'll still get 50% off, and I'm going to leave that running for about the next week to apologise for my absence all of this time. Hope you guys have been well. I hope you did end up having an awesome Christmas and a happy new year, and I hope that 2023 is getting off to a great start for you guys. I will see you again in the next video soon. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and enable all notifications if you want to stay up to date with my new videos when they come out. And if you want to keep watching, check out one of those videos on screen. Go watch that. I'll see you there soon. Take care and have some awesome lucid dreams.